One, and we're live.
All right, baby. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Clever Dummies podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Lockie Inwood, joined by my best man and my best mate, Mr. Renee. How you going today, brother?
Good, buddy. Good. How are you going? How's everything?
Yeah, doing very well. Having a few hiccups, but we'll leave that off camera. That's okay. We're finally rolling, man. So yeah, as I just said, the Clever Dummies podcast. This is episode numero uno, number one. Something we've been discussing and talking about and planning for a while. And I think now it's just go time. It's time to put those words into action and it started out. So yeah, we've got it. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. We do have a lot of fun together, just talking absolute shit, talking some good stuff too. But yeah, I think something, just podcasting's the way to go. Every man and his dog has a podcast. So yeah, I think pretty
So we have
excited
to
to
do it as
start
well.
it off. Yeah, we have to get into it. Otherwise you're left out, you know.
That's right. No, it's good. We've been talking about it for a while. Roughly 3 months or so. We've actually done few podcasts as well, just to see how they went. I think the first one was a little bit dead, and the second one was a bit better, and then I think this is the money. I have a good feeling about this podcast. Apart from the hiccups, I still have a good feeling about this.
Yeah, so do I. We're rolling.
That's it. So this is good podcast. I mean, we're gonna talk about our lives. We're gonna talk about the journey.
Yeah, the journey.
We're gonna talk about the journey.
Most important journey.
And like you were saying, everyone has a podcast. The thing is, we'll do it for 6 months, and we'll see how we go. If we don't do anything more than that, that's 6 months worth of documentation of life. For people who don't know us very well, we used to have a radio show back when we were 17, 16.
Yeah, the old days. Yeah, around there. It was after high school. So we're like, I reckon 18, 19, 20 even.
18, 19, 20. So we used to have a podcast, and I've gone through some episodes on SoundCloud. Some of our episodes are available there. And it's just good to see where our head was at. It's just good to see where our how our thought process was. And I do think documentation, I've come to believe that documentation is probably super important. It's as important as living life. You have to document, because you sit down, how much fun is it to just sit down and look through some old photos or old videos. You're like, those were the days, or
those were the days. Yeah,
those were the days.
They provide clarification, and what real maturity is kind of like continually evolving as a kid. Even the Bible talks about being faith-like in certain areas, being childlike in certain areas where you have to be blind to certain experiences in life. Otherwise, you're just gonna get beaten down, and you're gonna feel really negative about things. So you want to be optimistic, upbeat, like you were as a kid, where everything that was happening happens at the next stage. You couldn't look too far ahead. But obviously, as you mature, you begin to realize the things that you don't want to, and you should mature. You begin to realize the things you don't want to focus on, and you do want to focus on. And then just listening for 5 minutes at some of those things we're talking about, it's just like, man.
Yeah, it's crazy
hilarious.
to see. Just crazy to see where our head was at. I mean, some of the things we talked about were just stupid. It's just, I always wonder, I'm like, who let us on air? Why were we live? I don't understand.
Some of the things we were talking about, no one was listening. That's why we're able to get away with it.
But, at the same time, it's a good thing to look back at and go, well, I've grown, I've grown a lot. And, I think talking about I've grown, this is the theme of the podcast, the Clever Dummy podcast, is the process of growth, the process of the journey.
Yeah.
So that's the gist of the podcast, I suppose. So, that's where we'll take it from and see how we go. As we said, no pressure. And like you were saying before, something about action. Did you want to talk about that again?
Yeah. So 100%. And like the thing that we all get caught up in is something called like paralysis by analysis. And so you want to do something so perfectly, you don't want to experience failure. So you over prepare and you overthink, and you try to make it out to be one thing, when planning is good, and planning is kind of what separates, successful people from unsuccessful people, or success and failure. But you don't want to be scared of that failure. Failure is either due to a bad decision, or it's maybe something that you shouldn't really have been doing anyway. But it's the process of getting to that failure that's the most important part in the actual result. As long as your heart's in a good place, and as long as you're trying to do it for the right reason, it's you're gonna be continuing to be leveling up. And, you know, when we're 18, 17 years old, talking nonsense, lifting weights, bloody not warming up, going in doing 150 kilo deadlifts, my body is suffering for that big time, mate. I've been working my shoulder for the last 12 months and I still haven't got it right. But yeah, it's just, it was our attitude to life. It was like that being childlike, you know, and that was where it sort of came back and hurt us. But in saying that, we had a lot of fun for sure.
Well, that's it. I mean, no part of it I would change. It's just interesting to look back at it. I mean, talking about action, the paralysis by analysis, you know, I have a theory. I really do believe that people, there's some, I think, what's his name? The guy who talks about, the guy who yells all the time at people, Tony Robbins, right?
Tony Robbins, the great man.
He's a great man. He talks about this idea of motion versus action. So a lot of people go into this motion where they're planning. You know, I really do think, and I feel like I'm going to be the harsh one here. You know, I really do think people are just avoiding taking action, you know, because it's not that they're afraid more so of failure. It's they're more just avoiding doing the action, you know. I have friends who tell me that they're going to go to the gym and, you know, they go to online, they buy all these clothes going to the gym and they buy supplements and, you know, and, you know, then they sign up for a membership and do all these things but never go.
Yeah, new year, new me, 2020, baby. Just happened right now.
Nothing happened. It was all motion, as in, you know, they were planning. And I think the truth of the matter is, I think people who often succeed are more so people of action, and they just make adjustments. You know, you know, they don't come up with these absolute plans of how everything will happen. They just do it, and, you know, make adjustments as they go. Like, oh, well, fuck, that didn't work, so I'm gonna try this, you know. So it's interesting. You know, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this idea of making a decision. You know, people make a decisions, and, you know, how do you differ from a wrong decision and a right decision, and how do you know what time you spend was time well spent and what was time bad spent? You don't. You just make the decision.
Yeah.
You know, you probably spend more time, you know, thinking about the fact if this is the right decision than to just make the decision. Then you're wasting, because at the moment that's the right decision. Whether it's, you know, deadlifting with 150, 150 kilos with no warm up,
6 scoops of pre-workout.
Yeah. Well, now
my adrenal glands are wrecked, bro. Oh man, it's tough.
Well,
it's tough.
That's
but no, that's right.
It was the right decision at the time. I mean, now you know it was a bad decision, and you wouldn't do it, but you wouldn't be the person you are today if it wasn't for perhaps that decision.
Yeah, and ultimately the things that you regret the most are definitely the things you don't do. It's just like in any sport, any field, you've just got to keep going out to bat. You've got to just keep getting out there, getting the practice underway, and that does start to sort of eliminate things naturally, because, you know, okay, I didn't do that. I did this last time. It didn't work. I'm going to change it up. But every time you do it, it gets a little bit more comfortable. You get a little bit more confident, and really, we all have our own fears. It could be the fear that, you know, you're lazy, so you don't want to engage with it, because, you know, after 6 months or less than that, like 2 weeks in, that's where it starts to get lazy. Like for the gym, for example, like the first couple of weeks you're excited, you want to get in there, and then it starts to get difficult and you go, okay, well, I'm not as motivated as when I first started. It's getting hard now. I'm going to stop. That's the same with a podcast. That's the same with a business plan. So you've got to, you've got to keep going. You've got to keep doing it, keep getting stronger at it. But you've got to just keep remembering that the reason why you're doing it because you want to make yourself better. You want to be in a better place. And the good days, there are a lot more good days than bad days. But I think we as human beings, it's like a natural preservation. Like, you remember the bad things because we're wired to protect ourselves, and we're wired to stay away from things that are going to cause us harm. So we tend to focus on that sort of thing. But ultimately, if you're trying to get better a little bit by little bit, the failures become less of failures, and it's just learning. It's either, what's the old adage, you either win or you learn, you know. And if you can hold on to that thought process, I feel like that's really helped me over the last year or two, that sort of main concept.
That's it, isn't it? I mean, and I also tried this idea of, and I told you about this, and I said, if you were to think life, and this is when people are afraid of something, and people are often, you know, like you said, you know, remember the bad times, but, you know, people will relate So the problem is people remember the bad times, or people always think the time they're in is probably the worst time they're in.
Yeah.
They always think people. So the basic of this concept is people live in the past. Remember all the bad things that happened, remember all the good things that happened, but no one is really thinking about what's happening now. That's the real problem. And it's really interesting that you talked about the why, because I think why is the answer. Like, do everything why.
It
If you
is.
find
Yeah.
your why, I think it doesn't matter what job you're in or what you're doing. If you have a why, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Every step. There's this book I recently read, The Alchemist. It's a brilliant book, recommended by so many people. And the book talks about when you're on the mission to achieve your personal legend, the universe conspires, and universe conspires to help you achieve your personal legend. It talks about, and it talks about all is written by the one hand, so it talks about uh, God, as in talking about, so God has written all the path, and to the point where God, in that sense, or the universe, if you will, or whatever it is, right, will help you achieve that goal, because because it's written by one hand or written by God. So, and if you're on the legend to express, so that's the whole thing. So you gotta know your why, what your personal legend is, according to the, which is brilliant. Now, another thing people do, talking about living in the past, people tend to relate happiness and that feeling of joy to certain times in life and certain things.
Yeah.
They'll try to recreate it. And I was talking about this the other day. There's people who go to things like, oh, well, back when I was in school, I was popular and I was famous. What was I doing then? Oh, yeah, that's right. I had, I don't know, I had long hair or straight hair. So I'm going to straighten my hair or cut my hair or something like that. This is an example. The problem is that people tend to apply. If you were to think life as a game, right? So let's say, you started the game, you struggled a bit, you go to level 6, and all of a sudden you're beating all the bosses, you're going through it, you're ripping through, think about Marvel, the game, you'd get a character, all of a sudden you're good, you'd get a solid, you'd get a solid upgrade and you're beating everyone. And then you reach level 20, now all your armors are useless, and now you have to do all the side battles to upgrade your items. But what most people end up doing is they'd go, oh, actually the level 6 armor helped me then, I was going to put that on.
Yeah.
And that's not going to help, just because you're applying, if you're applying a different set of solution to a brand new problem, which is, new level of the problem.
Yeah. And I think a downside to what I'm kind of experiencing now, and it's because there's so many upsides too, is you feel like you're never quite satisfied. Like you feel like you're doing everything you can to be better and do better things. And we're still very young in the process, 23, 24 years old. So I obviously have an understanding that if you are satisfied at 23, 24, then you're probably, life's over. So, but like the act of not being satisfied, still being grateful and still being thankful, like you can't just always be in a constant state of battle, because you just won't be able to rest and eventually you burn yourself out. But when you have that idea in the back of your head, or you aren't totally satisfied, even if things are really good, that's what continuously forces you to keep growing, keep improving, keep doing the things well, and keep that sort of baseline, but just slowly leveling up. And the things that maybe you started 3 months ago, like for me, it's been my diet. Like I've really started probably 2 or 3 months ago actually dieting properly. Before that, it was just bro science and calories in and out, and fast for 20 days and and not too much. But like 2 months ago, the things that I'm doing, weighing my food, like having an idea of how many carbohydrates I'm eating and how much protein and fat, those sort of things a couple of months ago was like I wasn't even listening. I couldn't even understand it. And now it's literally embedded itself into my, into my way of life. Like I can't imagine my life without it. And there's so many things that you can relate that to. It might be a relationship, it might be a financial state as well. Maybe you're used to having a lot of money, then all of a sudden you've got to take a pay cut and you go, oh, how am I going to survive? But eventually you keep just going, you keep going through, and you can detach yourself from material things. That might help a lot of people and that sort of thing. But ultimately you've got to find things that provide you joy and happiness, but in the one sense are continually forcing you to keep finding that joy and happiness. If you're just searching for that one high, then you're just going to stick to that one high. But if you're trying to keep continuously evolving, and it's a tough thing too, like we go through a lot of hardships and a lot of battles. So there's days that you don't feel like that you're leveling up. Sometimes there's days that you're just going through. There's days where you're just hanging in, and sometimes there's days that you think, oh fuck, I might be going back down the slippery slope. But as long as in the back of your head, like there's a new day coming, as long as you can remember that it's a slow game, we can keep getting better and better. You're always going to, and that sort of thing bleeds off on other people too. And I think in the act of doing difficult things, things become easier, but also you get a real sense of satisfaction out of that. So you might think, wow, I'm really depressed, or I'm not doing well. I don't feel like expending energy anywhere else because I'm really upset. Like I feel like I've got nothing to give. But the more energy you put out, kind of the more you get back. And then you start to realize the things that maybe were hard no longer are hard anymore. And then you can keep going, keep leveling up. And that's something that I've come to over like listening to a lot of really smart people. A lot of smart people overcome adversity, and something that I've just felt filter into my life. And it's something that it's the right answer. Like there isn't, like you can't argue that point. Like that so many successful people have that way of thinking. And not that I'm successful in any way, but I mean, like that's just ultimately that's the one key. If you hang on to that sort of thing, treat people well, you know, you'll suddenly realize that you can cut a lot of things out of your life, things that you felt like you couldn't deal with. You either get rid of them or you have to deal with them, and then you deal with them. It's like, is it in your control or is it outside of your control? And you stay in that lane, and all of a sudden you've got energy to do things. You've got energy to give back to yourself. You can give to other people. I think life's really about that. Like it's great to focus on yourself and have your own personal goals, but when those goals can influence and affect other people, I think that's where real happiness is. It's like that's it.
That's it. Someone a few days ago posted on my Facebook, what is the definition of success?
Oh, you still use Facebook? Fuck yeah.
And, you know, and people are posting, you know, you define your own success. Someone posted some really shitty, stupid thing saying, oh, success is buying a brand new BMW. It was like, I do honestly think success is when you're truly happy with the person you are, and you know that you're working towards something greater, and you're able to give back. I think that's the definition of success. Yeah. And I don't think many people would be able to argue with that, because I think that is true success. Because you can't say, you know, and I do think happiness is coming over adversity is probably happiness. So the process is the happiness, and growth is happiness, you know, whether it's anything. Like I think growth is the process, and that's happiness. Because, you know, it's evolution.
It's getting better day by day. It's moving in the right direction. It's not feeling like you're stuck. It's not, you know, waking up every day and looking in the mirror and not liking who you are. It's all those things that when you are upset and when you are in the bad place, those things start to creep up, and those things really take over your life just by the act of constantly trying to evolve and get better and do little things and eliminate things. You're ticking those boxes as well. Yeah.
That's what makes you happy, because you're progressing, and you can be in progress now. And I mean, I want to use an example here. Think about back in the days when we used to be kids and we'd be very excited about our birthdays, right? We'd be like, yeah, the birthday, you know, we'd be very excited about the birthday. And, you know, the birthday cutting the cake would last for about 30 seconds. And, you know, it'd be piss poor at best, you know. You're like, what is this? You know, why was I so excited about this achieving the goal? It's never about the goal. That's the problem. I think so many people are goal driven. It's never about the goal. It is about the process. You're excited into the days and the events leading up to the cutting the cake. Cutting the cake is not that exciting, you know. It's just the excitement. What you tell yourself is excitement. And
having the cake there is what keeps you going. Like having that goal is what keeps you going. But the actual goal is never the real happiness. It's what you get on the process of getting to the goal.
Well, that's it. You know? And you know, sometimes the cake's not even good for you. So you know, the goals
tastes like shit. Too much sugar.
You know, you may achieve your goal. You know, you may get to your goal, and what then? Like, you know, you might feel shit. You'll be like, well, you know, fuck. And that's what I think the problem with our generation particularly is. Maybe not the problem, I wouldn't say, but I think we're not patient.
It's too hard.
Just want to be rich now. Just want to achieve that. I want my dream body now. It doesn't happen. You have to, if you want the dream body, you have to like fitness. It's not that, you know, So I've got friends who are still, be like, saying, oh, I'm going to achieve abs this year. Well, then what? Are you going to compete? Are you a model? Like, it doesn't matter. You have to love the process. This is the lifestyle. You have to be walking into a lifestyle and love the process, because the goal means nothing, because you'll achieve, let's just say you achieve the, 4%, 5%, 40%, right? And that's it. You've reached your goal. And now, it's like, you're here. Where are you going to go from here? Because, you've achieved it. You're only going to go down again. I mean, if your goal is the progress, if you're living in the progress, then there's no, the sky isn't the limit,
And most of the time when those sort of things are your goal, you end up not making it there that anyway. And when, like, for me, my initial kind of, when I really wanted to lose weight and I took it seriously in my own head, it was to get my abs back. But before I even had my abs back, I realized I don't even, like, that's not really what it's about. Now that I have, now that I'm happy with the way I look, I'm not happy, because I know there's some more in there. I know that I've only just touched the surface. I've only just hit the hard thing. And now I'm chasing what's more. And I'm still really happy with what I've done, but it's not like it hasn't even scratched the itch. Like, it's still there.
Well, that's it. Because, it is the process of growth. You were happy getting the ab process, because obviously the abs don't just happen overnight, right? So you wouldn't go, oh, well, that's it, I've got abs, yes, because, if you just got there and you got, that was your absolute goal, which I'm sure it wasn't, because otherwise you would have been like, yeah, well, that's it. If the goal was there, you'd be like, oh, that's it. But no, because, the void is way bigger than that. It's our slowly progressive working towards being the best version of us we can be. And, that's always, perhaps today you are the best version of yourself, and tomorrow you will be better and better, and so on. So I think that's the key here. It's not the goals that matter so much, but it's more so the progression, or the thing of actually doing it. And it's the fact, like what we talked about, it's, always you have to be grateful. If you're not grateful, you won't like the process, because you just want something else, because you're not grateful for what you have. So you have to be grateful, in a sense. You have to be thankful, because you've been given this life, you have the gift of life, and you're able to do these things. You're able to go to the gym. That's brilliant, because if you didn't have this, then you'd complain about this not having this. But you're not happy with that. So I think the happiness is progression in that sense. I actually remembered a very good quote. And I can't remember if I came up with this quote or someone told me this. So those things where they sort of sinks into your head so well. Anonymous. I'm like, is this my quote, or someone else came up with it? The quote was, people fail not because their dreams are so big that they can't achieve them. People fail because their dreams are achievable and they achieve them. So, it's true. And once you achieve your dream, what's it? What next? You always base your life around it. What are you going to do now?
Yeah. And that's why I like the small, and, it might be a psychologist, or it might be someone who has done it before and they're helping you get to one thing. There's a massive goal, which might be something that, is might be getting a certain job position. There's all these little goals along the way to keep you going. But I think naturally, by the time you get close to that big goal, like, you start to figure out other things that you want to do. So even though you're still chasing this one goal, naturally other things come up to your life. And even though you might think now, like, wow, what have I got to live? Like, what do I have to offer? Like, what do I have to chase? When you're slowly working towards it, other avenues open up. And that's, you mentioned the universe opening up your life and giving you pathways. That's what just happens. It's like every time you go out and do something, or you do things that might be getting you closer to where you want to be, you meet new people, you have new experiences, you have maybe save a little bit of money from working so hard, and you can travel to somewhere, and then you travel and you realize, wow, like, I actually want to live there. And then you go live there, and then everything's all good. And then you go travel again. It's like, wow, I want to go there and do that. So it's just a constant evolution. And that's not a bad thing. Like, that's the healthiness of the competition, the competitive nature that we all have as human beings, is consistently looking for more. And we all have it in us. Some people might not realize, but everyone has their niches, or everyone has the things they love. And if you can find a way to harness that same energy or that same passion that you have, it might be about bloody I don't know, it might be like a reality TV show that you love talking about, and then if you start talking, you can't stop, or it might be a sport. Like, sure, you might not be able to make a career out of it, but the passion that you have when you talk about this subject or this sport, that same energy, you can put it into other areas of your life, and then you can start to build from there. So going back to what you said right at the start, that's ultimately how it comes together, is just slowly chipping away, like swinging the axe, like every day by day. You've got 10,000 trees in the forest, and if you look at the forest all at once, it's impossible. But if you just go day by day, there's 365 days a year, and all of a sudden things just get a little bit easier. You when you really get locked into, you start to be able to identify and look at things that you want to eliminate as well. So it might be a negative person in your life, or it might be someone that gives you bad energy, someone that every time you see them, you're stressed out. You go, oh man, like what's going to happen this time? Just get rid of it. It might be family that you might need to cut off. You just get rid of it. Like it might be an addiction. You just get rid of it. You use that outlet somewhere else. Like that's a whole nother subject in itself. And I feel like we can go on a whole other pathway with that one. But it bleeds into all areas of your life. It's not just a 9-to-5 thing. And that's where happiness really is. Like when I was at my most depressed, it was all about escape. It was just trying to feel nothing. It was like being numb, or it was just trying to feel something for a very short period of time. And now I'm not afraid of going back to that place, because I know I've gotten out of there. And even if things were to happen and sort of raveled, I know that I can get out of there. But ultimately, just by kind of taking responsibility and realizing that, it was my own actions, it was my own like poor decision making that put me into those positions. You put yourself in it, well, guess what? You can definitely get yourself out of it too. And when you do bounce back, like that bounce back is fucking straight up. Like you just jump straight back to where you were before, and then you keep going.
Well, that's it. And I think the key is, if you're gonna get hit, you're gonna be right onto the ground, and it's chances are, if you're facing that kind of adversity, chances are you're leveling up, or you will level up once you go through it. So it's all about getting out of it. I mean, and sometimes it's hard. Like I definitely admit, sometimes there's been times, months, and days where it's just hard. Like life's not easy.
Yeah.
But then again, it's the process. Coming out of it, you feel stronger than ever before. You can take on life, and I'm sure something like that, you keep pushing it, you keep stepping up, you becoming stronger. So that something like that would never happen to you again. Or in a sense of talking about game before, you keep your levels up, so you never face a boss that you would actually lose to. So you keep just ahead. You keep yourself ahead. But if you do find yourself in that, there's you can get yourself out of it, just as how you got yourself in there. And I think talking about goals and how new goals happen. I mean, I remember, so this is me. And like, as I said, and you said that before as well, by no means, like, I consider myself yet successful. I don't think I ever will call myself successful, but I feel like in a sense where I am successful, in a sense where I am in progress, and I'm happy with who I am I'm in progress.
Proud.
So that's
proud
who I am, proud of who I am. And I know I'm in progress for greater things, and the dreams that I speak of, I live them every day. I talk about making the change in the world, and I take back the coffee cups at the coffee shop that I drink coffee at. That's perhaps puts a smile on the person's face, but that's still progress towards it's like you said, it's a day by day cutting trees, even though we shouldn't be talking about cutting trees at the moment.
Nah. Yeah.
But
if they had done some of deforestation, or they had done some bloody bit more fired hazard reduction, we could have helped it. But ultimately, that was just something that was going to happen. Australia's got one of the most wild and wicked landscapes of any country in the world, and unfortunately, it was a bit of a recipe for disaster, and it's been the hottest 6 to 12 months that we've almost ever had. So that's just a whole nasty thing.
Yeah, that's a
people like to make it political. Maybe it is a little bit, but it's ultimately, it just is what it is. It happens. It is happening right now, and thankfully thankfully we're getting through it, and it's definitely the worst of it is not over. But that's scary. That's definitely cuts a lot of bullshit out for you. Like it cuts a lot of things out that don't matter and aren't important. Who are you thinking about in those situations? What are you thinking about? And that'll give you the answer right there.
That's it. So that was just a little side rant, I suppose. But side rants. Love side rants. But a few years ago when I used to live in Sydney, right? So I remember, I think I said that to you as well. And I remember saying this to someone. I said, no, I'm going to work towards traveling more for work, right? And I said, I want to travel more for work, as in a sense where I want to fly a bit more for work, because, one day I got on a plane and I saw people traveling for work. I was like, well, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Give it like, 6 months or 10 months from there. And, I was catching like 4 or 5 flights a month for work. I was like, well, this is good. And I can tell you, but that wasn't, I was just like, yes, I've done it. It wasn't like that, So once again, the goal didn't matter, but it was just something that, I achieved. And then and that's when I said, I was like, oh, I want to move to another place. And I moved to Melbourne, and I realized, well, I don't even want to live in Melbourne anymore. I realized the fact that you learn more. I was like, well, I think I'm the kind of person who moves places, and why would I stay at one place? There's no reason to.
Yeah.
Because and see, if my goal was to move to Melbourne, I had like, what now? Like, do I live my life here the rest of my life? Because that's not how I see it anymore, at least.
Yeah. At the time of the move, though, you definitely acted on what you felt was the right thing to do, and it was the right thing to do. And it's good that now that you've found your kind of your threshold where it's like, okay, I've hit my plateau here for the moment. If I stay here for now, I'm just kind of doing something I don't really want to do. It's time to move on and go again. And then you get a whole bunch of new. Think of all the experiences that you have experienced in Melbourne, the people you've met, the everything, and you wouldn't have had that if you hadn't have moved. But in saying that, like, that's something that you're going to look back on. But for right now, it's just like, let's go again. Let's keep going.
Well, that's it. And now I'm thinking, what's next? That's the whole idea. And it's brilliant because progress comes in all senses as well. Like, I've been working a lot for the past few years, and now I'm actually looking at reducing my workload, which is really fascinating in a sense where you'd say, well, you're not working hard, but no, actually, I'm just becoming smarter as to how I work, and I want to spend that time that I have from working, stupid hours like working 9 to 9 p.m., 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for someone else. I could build wonderful projects on my own if I focused and time and energy on my projects. So I want to reduce my efforts of working. So it's all a work in progress. Yeah.
And you can go on to, you can save some of that energy. Definitely when you're working, you're doing something for yourself. There's a different type of motivation for sure. There's definitely more pressure, I think. It depends if you've got a bad boss or not, but the pressure is different. But it's because it's just like feeding. It's just like watering your own grass. Like, you can feel the benefits of the pressure, so you come back to it. But it's still always important to remember your own physical health, and it's always important to keep, not just look at the business or maybe the career side of life. It's looking at everything as a complete package and kind of leveling up and keeping yourself strong in all areas. So when you are ready to get back into it, or when you do stumble upon an opportunity that might require you to work those hours again, it's for a completely different reason. And it's, there is something to burning out. There definitely is. Like, you can just go ham, and we live in a world where it's about going ham and as hard as you can, and that's good and well, and that should be your attitude. But there's also knowing when to, like, oh, I'm just running in circles now. Time to take a step back, reassess, reevaluate, and then when the time's right, the time will be right. Like, you'll know when the time is to go again, for sure.
Well, you have to look at life as a whole. You can't just look at it as, it's like when you buy a car. You don't buy a car like, oh, what's got a solid engine? You'll say, well, yeah, I'm sure it'll run great. It doesn't have wheels at the back. The point of a car is a great engine. It doesn't have tires at the back. And I think it's really interesting. So many people talk about, oh, my work is so stressful. I'm so part of my work, work. So I come home. That's why I lay on the couch and I don't work out. Well, let's say if you go to the gym and you don't bring the dumbbells with you to work, you don't walk around with the dumbbells and take them straight to work and sit there bicep curling 12 kilos. You leave that at the gym. So just like that, why wouldn't you leave your work at work and move on to your other life? And it's not. I'm not gonna say it's easy to separate the stress, but it's definitely doable. You're gonna have to tell yourself, like, well, okay, well, work was stressful, and to be honest, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Work is people make stress for themselves. It's simple as that. People, what is stress? What's happening at work is that's so scary. I mean, there's been times where what's the worst going to happen? I mean, no one's ever going to beat you up at work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're really afraid, no one's ever going to beat you up. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to lose your job.
Yeah.
Right? That's the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah.
You always find another one, right? No one's going to beat you.
There's probably a couple of seckies out there that might, no, you're right. Exactly.
Yeah, you know, what is stress? Like what people...
We don't work in an apple factory, no.
Well, that's it. And I don't think any of it is stressful enough for people to justify bringing that stress, quote unquote, stress home and saying, oh, well, I'm so tired, I can't do anything else, or I will never ever achieve for anything. I can't even apply for jobs because I'm so tired from work.
Yeah.
Well, no, if you were to go to the gym, you don't bring the dumbbells with you. If you sleep, you don't take the bed with you to work. Why do it the other way around, you know?
Yeah.
Which is fascinates me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a good blend of work. Like I work throughout the day, right? So I'll work.
Yeah.
You know, I'll go into work at 10 o'clock, perhaps sometimes 9 o'clock, depending on what day it is, right? And I'll come home and I'll probably do something. You know, I'll check emails and reply. But you know, sometimes there will be situation where, you know, it's annoying situation. I'm not going to call it stressful because I don't think it's stressful. It's annoying situations because you have to do something, right? And most of the time, it's the fear of doing something, right? So at the moment, I'm going to quote, I'm stressed about this project that I'm doing. But really, what I have to do is I have to fill out a detailed report. So I'm just lazy. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm lazy. That's why I'm stressed about it.
It's the fear of the feeling that you get, right? Yeah, it's the fear of the feeling that it might give you. But really, the feeling that you're creating, the theoretical feeling, is going to be bad. And if you've experienced it before, that's actually as bad as it's going to get. The first time you experience something like that is actually the worst it'll ever be. You know, there are exceptional circumstances where, you know, you might work in an environment with a really, you know, you might have to have a job, whatever else. Like, I can't speak for everyone, obviously, because everyone has their own story. But the first time you experience something is generally going to be the hardest time. One, because you don't know what was going to happen and what happened. And two, you weren't prepared for it at all.
Well, that's it. And okay, talking about people, so you know, I think I am pretty sure. Well, I know for a fact everyone hates me at my company, the place that I work at, and you know, within the right reason. I've been quoted as a brat. I've been quoted righteous fool.
Quoted emails.
Email, you know, righteous fool, quote unquote, you know, brat, quote unquote, all these things, and people don't like me for my attitude. You know, they want to indulge into the, oh, you know, I'm stressed, gotta rip a dart, I'm stressed. Well, fuck you, I'm not stressed. You know, and you know, if you're stressed, you can, you know, make yourself, you know, please hand in your resignation, this is it, you know. And it's the indulgement of it. You know, people like indulging in that. Oh, you know, I am stressed and life is so hard. They like sitting in it because, you know, that means that gives them that makes it okay for them to put minimal effort in, minimal energy into work, and you know, and go home, yell at their parents and yell at their, you know, husband or wife, whatever it is, and it makes it okay because, you know, while I'm stressed about work, I don't think people are stressed about work. I think people are just making excuses for everything.
Yeah, they're worried of the feeling that it gives them when really the feeling is brought on largely by your thoughts and how you perceive them as well. And that's kind of a circle effect with other areas of your life as well. What was that last point you just said? I just had a point and I forgot it.
About people having an excuse to go home to yell at their parents, wives, husbands.
Yeah. So you give yourself that excuse. That's the same with physically not feeling great. Like if you give yourself that excuse, and the strange thing is, even though it's like a really bad experience, it might actually be the worst experience of your life. There is comfort in it because you're just feeling that way normally. So you actually don't have to do anything to change it. So that's what laziness kind of is. It's not doing nothing, so it's not changing it. So even though like I've had to rewire the way I think too, like, you know, I was getting to the stage where I wasn't finding a lot of happiness in a lot of things. And now that I'm out of that stage and a lot of things are making me happy, I still have like this inner voice, this like inner habit that I created that it said, oh, this is not going to last. Like this little bit of good feeling that you have is going to go back. It's going to go away. And then that's kind of what you get trapped in. You get trapped in believing that your circumstance is what you kind of deserve, and it might be actually what you deserve, and you might need to experience that for a certain period of time to help you grow. But that's when people go from, that being their life for a few months or a year, when that becomes 20, when that becomes decades, like that's what it is. Like it's just not getting out of your comfort zone a little bit, starting a new hobby, start doing something you wanted to do. That's kind of the real trick behind doing a martial art or doing real hard exercises. Physically, that's the hardest thing you're going to have to do. Like physically, you won't do anything else at your job or anything else unless you're in the military, but that's a different thing.
Well, that's
if you're sparring, like physically, you're not going to do anything harder than that. So if you can get through that, you can get through anything else. And at the end of the day, if it's unbearable, just leave the job. Yeah, if it's unbearable, just go. Just go. There's so many avenues. There's so many things.
You could do
even worse jobs that you might feel like you're taking a step down. You're getting rid of a lot of that stress. You're getting rid of a stress from a bad boss, from taking a commute on public transport that sucks really bad, from, I don't know, whatever it is. Maybe you give yourself, you think less of yourself because you work a certain job, whatever it is. I think that's a little bit different. You can change that kind of perception a bit, but just leave. Like you don't have to be trapped into it, really don't.
And there's only two ways, right? So there's only two answers to something that you don't like, right? Either change your attitude about it or change the conditions. Simple as that. There's no
change
other
the circumstance.
You can't, you complaining about it won't do anything. You have to change your attitude about it, or you have to, changing your attitude about it will actually probably get you out of the situation anyway. Or changing the position itself. It's always about that. It's always about those two. There's only two ways out of it. And I just want to quickly talk about when I spoke about when you go home and you have a reason to yell at someone or get angry, which is really interesting. Actually, I want to remind me of this and anger, right? So people have a lot of like anger issues and complaints because I'm stressed because of work and all that stuff. I'm angry. It just reminded me of something funny. It's like when you go to work, right? And go to work, your boss is having a bad day, and you just know he's gonna come out swinging at someone, right? So, he's gonna come out swinging 100%. It always happens, right? And he'd come at you and he'll stand next to you. He'll just just hover around and sure enough you'll do something. He'll say something, right? And he'll just give you a lecture for 30 minutes. What do you do? Do you tell him? What do you do? Do you tell him to go to his room, or do you tell him to fuck off? You don't, because you just he's in a position of power. You don't say anything. But when you go home, all of a sudden you're angry. When your kid does something, or your wife does something you don't like, or your husband does something, you're angry. Where did the anger come from? All of a sudden you're angry. Why are you angry? Because I just think it's people are often angry as well, is because they just can't. They just have they know their wife's not gonna still give them lunch, still gonna give them dinner, or their husband's not gonna still be around, or their kid's not gonna yell back at them or hit them or fire them from a job. So they just they have the right to be angry. So I think a lot of it goes back to saying that you change your attitude about this problem, or you change the problem itself. So I think people have choices. I do think people have choices. I mean, there's exceptions, right? You could say it in a scenario where you're addicted to a drug, and it's hard because you make justifications to yourself in those scenarios. I'm not talking about that scenario, but I'm talking about general life scenarios. People are well in control of their lives, but they just don't want to put the energy in to change their attitude or how the problem is.
And that's because it then becomes on you, and there's a certain comfort to working for someone, working a job that you feel like the job's going to be there for you. It might not be the most exciting job, but you're a number, you can sort of get the job done. And on the one hand, it's like, oh, I hate this circumstance, but on the other hand, it's like, well, I don't have to do too much. I'm actually not forced to do anything. But in itself, like if you're constantly stuck in that state for too long, like that's where you start to feel empowered. And again, it's like that output versus what you get back. Like you aren't putting a lot out, so you're not actually going to feel a lot back. I think Nutrigrain put that on one of their boxes. You get out what you put in.
Well, that's it. And you are a product of what you consume, whether it's content or whether it's food. As simple as
whether it's food. That's exactly right. And food does play such a massive impact on it. And so many people don't pay attention to it. One, because they don't actually understand how significant it is. Like sugar, for example. Without like sugar, 80% of cancer can be drastically avoided or cut back altogether without the consumption of sugar. Like there's so many things like that in the nutritional field that's just crazy,
Well,
and
that's it.
things that I'm learning about. But ultimately, it's about like you're putting fuel into your body. If you put really bad fuel into your car, you're not going to get a great output. If you're constantly, and the reason why people eat certain foods is out of habit, but it's also it's guaranteed comfort. For a few minutes, you're going to feel really good downing that cheeseburger or eating that fried food or whatever else. But it's putting empty nutrients and it's putting no value back into your body, so you're not going to get value out. And one thing I could say to anyone is like, just monitor how your food and your mood, like, so you eat something and 5 to 10 minutes later, it'll be very quick. It's not even that long, 15 minutes max. How does that food make you feel? Like, and that'll, and if you're struggling with mental health, like that'll help. Like what am I eating? How is that making me think? Is my outlook? Does my day get better or worse after I eat,
100%. I mean, you look at how much effect vitamin C, antioxidants have on you. Like, you talk about scientifically proven, you eat dark chocolate, not normal chocolate. I just want to be very clear.
Yeah,
dark chocolate.
70% cocoa. That's the best we've got on the market. Still a lot of sugar in there, but it's the lesser of all the evils for sure.
Yeah, so you instantly feel better. It is known to make you, because it has actually antioxidants, what it's called, right? Antioxidants, and it also triggers serotonin, and serotonin it's scientifically known to be the happy chemical. Simple as that.
Yeah, so it is a good, feel good hormone. Yeah, exactly.
Vitamin C is essential, so people don't. I know people who haven't eaten, a vegetable in years, like
since their mum forced them to do it when they were 10 years old.
Like I've seen some of the boys do it, pick out all the green parts from the food. It's those kind of things, like pick out like anything that's green, like pick it out, and that's where all the nutritions are coming out. Like one of the biggest misconception in the whole, and the problem with this is so widespread that people who are writing books about it as well don't know what they're talking about. Like one of the biggest one is like carbohydrates versus fat. Everyone knows is like, well, if you're losing weight, you got to cut the fats, right? Because it's pretty obvious, People are like, well, I'm going to have low fat milk. I'm going to have low fat this, low fat yogurt, and everything is low fat. But they're consuming carbohydrates like no tomorrow. And what they're missing the point is the carbohydrates or, monocarbohydrates are like everything is sugar. It's like glucose. And that's what's causing you to become fat, or like causing you the problems, because carbohydrates are the problem, not so much the fats. It's not that they're a problem. You need them in a moderation, right? But you need
definitely
watch what you eat with your carbohydrates. You can't be eating white bread and expecting and drinking light, skim soy latte and expecting to lose weight.
Yeah, exactly right. And that sort of low fat trend, and the marketing industry took over the marketing aspect of the food industry, because obviously people hear fat and they think of body fat, but dietary fat and the, like, I guess nutritional science calls dietary fat lipids for that reason. So it wants to separate the word out of, fat and fats. But carbohydrates, you can eat, like obviously vegetables are a great source of carbohydrates. A small amount of fruit is really good. Fruit is predominantly made up of something called fructose, which is fruit sugar. So that spikes your insulin. So that's not great for you. So beans, and those sort of foods that have certain types of rice. Rice is a little bit difficult. Rice requires a lot of insulin to break down in your body. So it's not as good as, say, your good quality greens and beans, and a little bit of nuts as well. Like cashews are really high in carbohydrates, but the predominant use of carbohydrates.
Have low glycemic index. So they also have low glycemic index. So that's the difference.
Yeah. So you know about the glycemic index, do you? That's what I've looked into. So rice is actually quite high on the glycemic index, and same with most fruits. Yeah. So that's the problem with carbohydrates is the predominant use. Go ahead.
Not all carbs are made equal. Simple as that.
No,
right? So
definitely.
Not all carbs made equal.
Especially the ones that have additives and have ingredients added into to increase the taste, right? Yeah.
One would assume, so most rice you will say, well, it's carbohydrates, high in carbohydrate, And often most rice are high in, have a high glycemic index. And glycemic index is how quickly your body is was it processing it.
So it's how quickly it forces your body to to bring insulin into the liver to break down the food. So white rice actually has a higher glycemic index rating than cane sugar.
There you go. So and
69 to 60 is something like that.
Bodybuilders, and one would assume like, well, bodybuilders have been eating chicken and rice for ages. No, they've been also jabbing for years as well. So
they've been doing excessive amounts of growth hormone. And that's the thing about Hollywood. That's the thing about all these things. And like, people don't like to talk about it because it's been criminalized in a lot of countries, and particularly with sport. Like, it's an illegal act to take. You can't take performance enhancing drugs for a reason. But that's the truth. Like, when you do put artificial, or you do add artificial amounts of testosterone, you take I don't think they do as much insulin as they do anymore. That's kind of like an old method of doing it. But like, you do growth hormone, you do DECA, you do clenbuterol that cuts the fat off your body no matter what. Like, you do have these outside sources. In general, they have a lot of money to have the best nutritionists cooking them the exact right amount of food, and they training an excessive amount. Bodybuilding's kind of like a tricky one because they do train a lot and they do generally eat pretty well. It's just their ultimate goal is they want to be healthy, but it's to put on as much mass as possible. So that's not good in the long run. It isn't,
That's it. And I think a lot of people, so like, you got to think about if you were to live a perfect day, like, if you want to feel, so this is, it all has to be equal. Like, if you want to feel healthy and have energy, yet look good, if you're talking about that, you have to get scientific here. Like, you can't,
most definitely.
You gotta, there's some things you have to take out. Like, simple, you will never eat white bread. Simple as that. That's
no way.
No, you should never eat white bread.
I've gotten rid of all bread, but that's because my body doesn't digest grains really well anymore. So I've just decided to get rid of it. There's a lot of people that still can eat, like, a good one would be high fiber, low GI bread. Baker's Delight sell it, and that's because what fiber does is it's a key nutrient in your body that helps you break down and digest carbohydrates, and along with other foods too, but predominantly carbohydrates. And that's why people shit. That's why they use it as like a laxative, because it literally helps you break down carbohydrates. But it's about, certainly there's a balance to it as well. And I have that type of personality where I like to go all in, and I'm not just going to do it to be okay at it. I want to be as good as I can be and help other people. So, and people love their food too. Like, pasta is another big one. Like, there's certain types of strains of pasta, like spaghetti is okay, but most pasta have additives, and most pastas have been genetically modified and aren't very nice. But at the same time, if you want to eat pasta, you have to make sacrifices in other areas. You might have to cut out the sugar in the soft drink, which we shouldn't be having anyway, but cut out some of the sugar.
That's it. So
sugar in general.
I mean, it's good. And there's no, once again, like I said, there's no sugar coating it, literally. We should
literally.
There's no sugar coating it. But people want comfort because they want to be able to, my only comfort thing is drinking, soy cappuccino. Well, I drink soy cappuccino. So
you love the soybean.
I love the soy.
I tried it for a bit. I didn't mind it.
People's thing is, I want my soft drink. I just have one soft drink a day. And pasta is okay. It's healthy. No, it's not. You had sugar in the morning. You're sugar in pasta. Like, you're saying that it's the fault of, your skim, the milk that you drink, which is because there was full cream. That's why you're fat. No, motherfucker, you're fat because you eat carbohydrates all day and you have no energy. And you can't move because you don't have energy, because all you did was consume sugar, and your insulin's through the roof. So there's no way you're gonna move. It's a cycle.
The primary role, just in terms of nutritional density, like, there are legumes and there are certain beans and veggies as well, because there's so many vitamins and that sort of thing in veggies. But even veggies, you hit your threshold pretty quickly. That's why it is 4, 5, 6 servings. Like, that is kind of 200, 300, 400 grams of vegetables, which does seem like a lot, but if you're not eating any other carbohydrates, then you can get that in really easy. Like, my breakfast I just had there, I had 160 grams of kale. Like, I just smashed that stuff right now, a little bit of tomatoes. But really what carbohydrates do is, your body, if you're eating a lot of it, which most of us are, the standard American, standard Australian, most diets, most places you go, most packaged foods have a higher carbohydrate, quantity, percentage in them, is your body's just all the energy that you're using, that you're getting throughout the day, your body's just having to break the food down. So that's why you might have these big spikes and you feel really good. Then you kind of come crashing down. It's like, fuck, I need to eat again to feel better. And then you feel a little bit better and it's coming back down. And that has a massive effect on your mental health.
Well,
and at the end of the day, that's why obesity is, people are as big as they've ever been. And it's only getting worse. Like, I live in Coffs Harbour, a beachside town. And I mean, man, the percentage of people with quote unquote beach bodies, and it's not about having a beach body, but people that are healthy it's very low. Like, it isn't good. And people kind of have a distorted reality of like what healthy is, or what somewhat healthy is. Like, I don't have big guts, so I'm healthy. But no, man,
it's not that. It's not that. And I honestly think it's about feeling great. And people think people have accepted the fact that feeling tired and napping during the day is just not like, okay, nap's good for you. But people are feeling tired have just accepted as reality. It's not reality.
I can't nap if I wanted to. The only time I'll nap is if I stay up too late and I've only slept 3 or 4 hours. Then I need to get my 6 or 7. And I don't need 8 or 9 hours when I'm eating healthy. 7's good. I don't need any more than 7.
And I'm gonna trigger people, and I'm gonna say this. I don't wake up super early, but I also go to sleep. So like my sleeping hours is. So I'm gonna tell you this before I tell you what I'm about to say. My sleeping hours would be from like, I don't sleep till like 2:30, 3 o'clock, right? And I'd wake up at like 8:30 to 9 o'clock. That's my wake up time, right? So I don't wake up, not always. This year I've been trying to go like sleep early, but that's what my previous time have been. But I'm not, and what I do is, this is how my day works. I don't eat breakfast always. And I drink delayed coffee as well. So I delay my caffeine intake until later. And what my coffee would be, it would probably be just up long black if I'm drinking coffee. And in the morning, I'll drink some water. And this is, and all the way through till 1 o'clock, I won't eat food.
So you're doing intermittent fasting?
Yeah, to 12:30, I won't eat food. And when I'll eat food, it'll be something like, probably something is high in fat and high in protein, low carbohydrates, right? I'm not gonna lie to people. I never run out of energy. I'm ready to go to the gym at 9 o'clock at night. I'm never out of energy. I've never sit down and be like, oh, I'm tired. I don't remember the last time I was really tired. And then this is now, but I don't remember I was tired. Like, you get tired after a long day at work, and after the gym, you get tired. But I don't remember being tired ever. Like, that's why I think that's probably why we have so much energy all the time.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And there's a little bit of ADD in there too. Now there's overstimulation. Like, there's definitely caffeine, and that's what caffeine is. It's a stimulant. It's not an energy source. It's a stimulant. So it's stimulating the adrenal gland in your body, and it's not doing it in the most healthy of way. If you limit it to a lower amount, just like having a couple of drinks a day, like, your body can process that. Like, as long as you're doing other good things. And we obviously grew up in the, really when we started lifting, that's where, kind of the online fitness industry was peaking. So we had supplements, we had pre-workouts, and everyone had to take pre-workout, and your workouts are better with pre-workout and all this sort of thing. So I'm kind of feeling the effects of that now and still getting to terms with it. But yeah, mine's very similar. If I had not my ideal life, is that actually a Red Bull? Or is it just a Red Bull cup?
It's a Red Bull cup, had water in it, but I was just saying that's another bad one.
Yeah. Oh, Red Bull. Yeah, exactly. Energy drinks are the big one. You can go low sugar. That kind of helps. You're taking one of the bad ingredients out of it, but still at the end of the day, it's not good. But I guess I would love to, I feel like I'm a little bit of a night owl. So I actually like being up late. If I had my way, I'd go to sleep at like 1 o'clock and wake up at 7:45, 8 o'clock. But because I like to train in the morning, I go to class at 7 and 8 o'clock. I try to get into bed by 10:30. And when I'm eating pretty healthy in the day and I'm not spiking my insulin all day, every day, I actually do get tired at that time now. So I usually sleep by 11 to 6. So I get my 7.5 hours. I'm lucky. And the main reason why I'm getting up at that time is to train, like, because I have a scheduled class time. If it was my preferred, I'd be up to 1, 2 o'clock, just because I'm like you. I like being up a little bit later. That's it. I feel like my brain goes into, like, I kind of get this little, it's just I have read a little bit on it, and I have watched podcasts on, I can't recall it exactly. There's like a certain state after midnight, you can kind of, it's only for a few hours, but you just kind of go to this different level of thinking. And because everyone's sleeping, there's kind of like this weird, it's almost like an unmeasurable effect that you get. It's like, okay, I actually something about this is nice, but it's also a lot of that is also gluttonous as well. And it's just about being weight later. We're always forced to go to certain bedtimes by our parents, and it could be a little bit of deep psychology along those lines too. But I've come to accept, and eating healthy has actually got me to go to bed by 10 or 11 o'clock. And then I'm up by 6 or 7 o'clock every day without fail. And then my first meal, I do train pretty intensely in the morning. So sometimes I will have to eat some carbohydrates with my brekkie, and that's usually just been veggies recently. And I might have some rice from the night before. But if I can power through, then I like to go to about 1 o'clock. So that's about if my last meal was at 9 o'clock, that's about a 14, 15 hour fast every day. And that I feel like my body's good there because I love food. I'm a foodie. Like I'd love to eat cakes all day. Don't get me wrong, biggest sugarhead in the world. But when I'm not thinking about food, my energy is just a lot more stable. I eat a big meal. Like I generally eat twice a day. They're anywhere from 800 to 1400 calories a day, like at one sitting. But because it's relatively clean and it's probably 200 grams of salmon or 200 grams of protein at once. It's probably 150 to 200 grams of veggies. And then it's like, I always have my sauces, or I have like a little bit of thing that I like with it. And then generally I'm having like a little bit of fruit along the sides of that too. So, and if I have to snack during those middays, I'm having like almonds, which are nutritionally dense. Almonds are one of the most, like, if you want to talk about a superfood, there's no such thing really as superfoods because foods are what they are. Like every food is different. Almonds are actually one of the best superfoods you can get. There's like a little bit of carbohydrates, there's heaps of fats, there's heaps of protein, heaps of potassium. There's more potassium per gram in almonds than there is bananas. And what people have always correlated potassium with bananas. And what potassium is, it's a mineral, just like salt, just like sodium, and its key function in the body is to to suppress the appetite. Kind of gets into your gut, and it lets all the cells in your stomach know that, okay, we don't have to eat right now, we can just chill. Like its kind of main function is actually just to go, all right. So that's why if you have a banana, say after a big meal, and you feel like I'm dieting, I'm doing really well, I'm trying my best, but I just can't quite get hungry. One, probably up the fats as well, because fats have a higher per gram. Fats have more calories than carbs or protein as well, so you're going to get more calories and you're going to be full, but you might be missing potassium as well. So almonds and bananas, and even just a potassium supplement here or there, is pretty good for that too. So that's one thing I found that helped me.
And I think and it's always motivation as well. Like I know almonds are very high in calories, right? So like very high.
Yeah, definitely. That's why they're so nutritionally dense, but you get full really quickly, Yeah,
you get full. What you do is like, let's say if you eat 5 almonds, you're great. Like that's 5 almonds is roughly, I think 150, 130 calories, something like that. But off memory, like
not almonds. Like that. 100 grams. Almonds are small, remember? So 100 grams of almonds. Almonds are like little nuts. So 100 grams of almonds, I'm not exactly sure how many calories it is. I think it's about 300-ish. So you could go, actually one thing I like doing is I like going to Coles now. Woolies might do it too. And they have like the little nut section and like dried fruit. And you can actually like weigh it up to individual bags, and you can put it on the scale. So I actually like to do that. I'll do about 50 grams at a time. And that kind of is like my snacks for the week. That's a really good way to do it, going to Coles and weighing
5 almonds are 35 calories, right? So 5 almonds are nothing, right? So now if you think about, let's say if you had, 5 almonds is nothing, but people will end up having like 50 almonds, right? Because it's so easy to eat.
Yeah.
And
especially with salt on there.
Yeah. So now that's 350 calories. So what I mean? So that changes the game. Yeah, 350? Yeah. Yes. That's it. The math is wrong.
100 grams of almonds is about 350. So there or thereabouts. So it depends on how you do it. But like, if it's your predominant, like if you go into the movies and you're eating them like popcorns, well, then you're going to get sorted out pretty quickly. But if you're eating it as a snack in between really big meals and good quality meals, you actually won't eat, like your body will know when to stop. Yeah. And that's the thing with salt too. Salt kind of acts like a little bit of a blocker, like that's why you can eat more and more of it. So you definitely have to be careful, but if you're weighing it out and give yourself a certain amount, like then you just won't. But if you get like a big bag, 800 gram bag of almonds, well, then it's the fucking visual as well. You're just going to keep going until you fucking.
That's it. And then I think, okay, well, I think we should probably wrap up soon because I think we've gone over an hour now, which is it's been a very good
fucking awesome.
episode.
Yeah.
So I think it is. I want to do an exercise for people who watch this. Maybe they can try it out, or if not, I want people to try out. Basically do exactly what they do with their food in a day, right? Don't even think about what you're doing, but throughout. So when if you wake up and go make a note of how you feel at 9 o'clock in the morning. Like, just rate your general mood from 9 o'clock in the morning, and maybe rate it from 1 to 10. And then the next one at 3 o'clock and 9, what's the thing? Yeah, next one at 3 o'clock, and then 6 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock at night, right? So just, do that, like, how you feel how do you feel generally, right?
How high stress is, like, do you feel anxious? Do you feel
anxious? Like, how do you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you feel? Do you feel sleepy, tired?
Sure.
Like, you go from 0 being feeling like shit and death and want to jump off a bridge, and 10 being, like, I can do this. Rate yourself that, and, do that. And the following day, do this. So wake up in the morning, don't have breakfast straight away. Wait it out. If you're not using intermittent fasting, don't do the whole long stretch.
No.
But push it long as you can.
9 hours.
So when you wake up, have a glass of water, a big glass of water, and delay your breakfast, delay your coffee till at least 10:30 to 11 o'clock. At least. It's so important, because if you have caffeine in the first thing in the morning, that's probably not the thing. And instead of having so have a coffee, and then push your breakfast. Instead of having your normal breakfast, try to find a high fat, high protein breakfast. So maybe what would be a good example of, like, something you can buy?
Eggs, right?
So
eggs are fucking easy to digest as well. Easy to digest, scrambled any way you like it.
Boiled egg, anything. So have eggs, so high fat, high protein, and when you get home, once again, high fat, high protein, maybe a steak or something, or grilled chicken, with a little bit of veggies or asparagus. That's pretty good. That's another good one. And broccoli.
Yeah, broccoli, kale. Don't be afraid of red meat either. You savages. Don't listen to those vegan pricks. Don't listen to those game-changing pricks.
So if you rate yourself how you feel.
Fish is great. Fish is probably the best.
Like salmon,
it's probably the best quality. Yeah.
So
best quality
see how you
meat
feel.
you can get.
And
organic.
And if you give that a go, and if you feel like shit, go back to your own habit. If you don't, then there's your answer to how to be better, stronger.
That's right. Faster. Yeah. And hashtag brilliant. That's a brilliant documentary on Netflix as well. If you want to check that out, it's about steroid use. It's pretty good. And at the same time, like, if you're used to having sugar all day, your body's going to really want that, because it is you get a real quick satisfaction off it, and there's a real addictive property to it. And this will be my last little bit before we go to, so scientists have proven and shown that your stress hormone in your body, which is called cortisol, is generally at its highest naturally at about 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning. That's just something that happens overnight when your body's digesting the foods and whatever's left over. So around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, cortisol levels are really high. So that's why you might wake up in the morning feeling really anxious and stressed. And when you're giving it coffee as well, you're just peaking that anxiety. There's one thing about cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Cortisol runs off glucose. So if you exercise in the morning, when you exercise the first 20 to 30 minutes of exercise, or any sort of real hard intensity exercise, you're having to lose glucose as a fuel source, just because that's what your body's used to. Fats and proteins come a little bit later, and they're harder to kind of process. There's different methods of getting it out of your body, but the most quickest, say, if you go for a run, if you do a 30-minute high interval class, if you do any sort of exercise in the morning, your body's going to burn through glucose, and therefore it's actually going to lower your cortisol levels, because cortisol runs off glucose. So one in the same. That's why when you work out in the morning specifically, or work out at all, people say, I always feel really good afterwards. There's definitely a sense of achievement with it, but you're literally burning away the stress. You're burning away cortisol levels in your body. So
And also
just
your
get
brain
out.
releases, also your brain releases serotonin as well.
Dopamine and all that sort of thing. Exactly right. But
So, which is brilliant.
when you release, when you get rid of that stress, so cortisol, which is the stress hormone, runs off glucose, which is carbohydrates and sugars. So
what we'll do is in the notes or the comment section before the description section, we'll put few notes as to how you should try your next day and rate how you feel. Maybe work out in the morning as well, all those kind of things, and see how you feel. And then the people. And
you don't have to go to the gym and fucking bench 100 kilos. It could just be taking the dogs for a walk. It could be walking around your block. It could be going up it could be doing 50 push-ups. I like the idea of going to a gym and particularly going to a class because there is a sense of accountability there. But any sort of movement, anything where you're raising your heart rate even a little bit, that's going to help start burning the fuel that you have from the next day. You're burning through the glucose, which in turn cuts back at your cortisol and helps your body, helps digest and starts it up. And ultimately, if you're just eating food all day, your body's digesting food all day. And that's a prominent thing. And it's not, that's just energy. There's 50% of your energy gone to challenge, to do the rest of your things.
And it's a fact that when you're digesting food, there's all the blood rushes down to your stomach, it's helping it. And so you often, that's why, I don't know if people know, when they have a big meal, they often feel really lethargic and really loopy, if that makes sense. That's because your brain's not getting all the fresh oxygenated blood and all the blood because your stomach is digesting as well. So
it's requiring all of it.
That's a straight reason why you shouldn't be always eating. You need to be fasted. Like your body there's two stages. Your body is metabolizing and fasted. What you need to do is spend more time in the fasted state versus in the metabolizing state, because most people go through life always metabolizing. How crazy is that?
That's right. And we were raised with cereals and eating sandwiches and toast in the morning and all these foods. So anyway, that's a whole nother pod. That's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole other podcast we can go to.
I'm glad that we're hitting the nutritional vibes together. We can really get into that, and that's my passion right now. So that's what I want to
next episode is about nutrition.
But that's it, baby.
Let's do it. Next episode.
Yeah. That's been the Clever Dummies podcast. Hopefully more clever than dummies, but I think we'll get a bit more stupid as time goes on.
That's it. No, I think it was absolutely brilliant. It was a good start to the podcast. And I think I'm going to actually plug another podcast, which has been brilliant. I've been listening to this podcast called Serial by This American Life. It is absolutely brilliant podcast. It's a true crime podcast. It's narrated and investigated by this journalist who is a war crime journalist, and she's absolutely brilliant. Her name's Sarah Koenig. Look her up and look up Serial. It's available on Google Podcasts and Podcasts on Apple. So if you check it out, it's a brilliant podcast. You'll really get into it.
What's it called again?
Serial. By This American Life.
Get into it, baby.
That's it. All right. Well, this has been a production of
the Clever Dummies podcast. We'll have a little outro music maybe here eventually. Give us a flex to finish. Oh, yes, baby. Salute. Thank you guys so much. If you've managed to listen to this so long, we really appreciate it. More good quality content. Hopefully they come. We love you all. Much love.
Gotcha.
Give your mum a kiss for me.
Bye. Stop recording.